Welcome, everybody, to week one of the Reddit League show. I'm joined today by Calamity.
Hi.
And a new guest with us this week, GC. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And we don't want to waste your time, so without further ado, let's get into the exciting results of week one. So let's take a look at Division 1 to start. Calamity.
Yeah, Division 1 had some very interesting results. Costa, or better known as Simi and Raidman Mucha, got the top 1 and top 2 score of their division, but because they played against each other, it only got them a draw. And Equinox, funnily enough, the only newcomer to the division who got a win. Actually, Schludi got a win as well, but Equinox was the only one who put up a very decent score. Everyone else, all the three newcomers to Reddit League in general, Kevin Kroner, Kompilu, and Schludi, got somewhere between 14,000 and 16,000 points. And the other promoted person, Chicago Geographer, also only got 15,000 points.
Yeah, so quite a rough opening week for those newcomers in Division 1, living up to its reputation of being the most competitive and challenging division. GC, your thoughts?
As we know, there's some really, really good players in there. So I think for maybe some of the newcomers, it can be quite rough, but we know they're top players as well. So I think in another week, they'll have their chance to put up slightly higher scores and get more points on the board. But yeah, I think Simi, aka Co-Star, Raidman Mucha, and Magyaron all looking very strong at the moment with those points, and Equinox too.
Very good. So let's see how that result transferred into the table. Of course, it's only week one, so not a whole lot of data to go off of, but still very interesting points about this. Calamity?
Yeah, you can see how the new rule is affecting the table there, which is that once you finish in the top 50% of your division, so for Division 1 that's in the top 5, you get an extra point if you lose or draw, just to kind of take a bit of the luck factor out of it and make it a bit more skill-based in that regard. So you can see how that affected the table there with Raidman Mucha and Costa both getting 2 points instead of just 1 for their draw.
Yeah, and what's really nice about this league table is you can see the score differential between all of the players. Definitely the 5th and 6th place, only 76 points. They did play each other, Raidman Mucha and Co-Star. Very, very tight race, while you can see the largest margin between the two players. Magyaron with a 8,451 point differential, and Chicago Geographer a negative 8,451. Very nice. So let's see who these players will be facing off against in week 2 in Brazil. Calamity, any interesting matches that stand out to you?
The one to look out for definitely for me is Magyaron versus Equinox, because both of them got very decent scores in North Macedonia. And also, it's not getting any easier for the newcomers. Kompilu playing against GC, Kevin Kroner playing against Simi, and Schludi playing against Verdok are all facing very tough opposition for week 2.
Nice. So yeah, GC, how do you feel about your next opponent, Kompilu, after his week 1 performance?
I'm glad Calamity thinks I'm a strong opponent, but yeah, Kompilu, I'm curious. I'm glad that we've actually got someone from that kind of French Twitch scene in the league. That's interesting to see. But yeah, I haven't seen too much of his gameplay. I watched the video of his head-to-head against Schludi, which I thought was really interesting. Face cam's quite a good element as well, because you can see the kind of visible frustration at times. But yeah, I'm not taking anything for granted. I need to do some serious preparation, I think.
Very nice. So any other matches stand out to you, GC?
I think, yeah, as you say, I think for the newcomers, it is looking quite rough. I think coming up against Co-Star or Verdok is never going to be easy, particularly in a map like Brazil, where experience really counts for a lot. And yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see if Chicago Geographer can make a comeback as well. I expect he's probably pretty good at Brazil, so I think he might have a decent chance. But yeah, we'll see.
Very nice. Okay, and with that, let's look at Division 2, Week 1 results. GC.
Yeah, so I think the match that jumps out here, just in terms of the high standard, is It's RC against Stimfalix, aka Giovanni. I think quite harsh on Stimfalix there, not to get the win, but he does get a bonus point for his very high score. And then Mr. Blue GG putting up an insane score there. I think that's somebody who performed very, very well in qualifying, and just all round has been putting up some really great scores. And then Benico managing to also get a great score there of 24,800, beating Seppo. And then Tescotac, who I believe is in the lead for the division at the moment, beating Radox quite comfortably, who looks like he had a fairly rough game there.
Yeah, Calamity, any insight on what happened to Radox on that one?
Yeah, Radox actually, I mean, he was never going to win anyway, but he forgot to place a pin down in one of his rounds. So that's why his score looks even worse than it probably would have been otherwise. But yeah, the division in general, I think most of the results actually went the way I expected them to go. The only surprise for me was Skarmory winning against Blockchain Prenup, who's been a part of Division 2 in Season 1 as well. When in their match, both of them pretty much got 0 points for one of their rounds, and it just came down to a bit better pinpointing by Skarmory for the other four.
Yeah, very strong performance by the young newcomer. If I'm not mistaken, there are more 24K plus scores in Division 2 than Division 1. Not just because there's more players, but just a really, really strong showing in the first week by everyone.
Yeah, really strong. I think this division at the moment has a lot of really good players, so that's not a massive surprise, really.
Oh, very nice. Okay, and let's see what that means for the table going into week number 2. As you can see, Tescotac is indeed in first place with a 10,673 score differential. It's a big lead going after only 1 week. And again, the 6th and 7th place, kind of the dividing line between the winners and the losers, very, very close. 191 points only separating Radu and Giovanni. So GC, any other thoughts about League Division 2?
I think this is a good example of how, if you come up against a really strong player, often there's nothing you can do. I mean, you can have a really great game as RC and Stimfalix did, but if you're up against a good opponent, you're going to kind of suffer a bit in the table, just because it's hard to get that kind of score differential. But yeah, Radox would be upset to have missed that guess, and I'm expecting a lot from him in Brazil, but more on that probably later as we preview the next round.
Yes, and Calamity, any thoughts?
Yeah, nothing much to add there. Just as you said before, a lot of great performances all around. There were 7 people in that division who didn't drop more than 1,100 points. So we'll see if they, as GC said, it's just a division that's really stacked. Like, there's a lot of great players in there. And it's going to be really tough for some of the not as experienced participants to not get relegated.
Indeed. If you can see on the table, 4th and 9th place are only separated by about 1,000 points, right? So very, very close in terms of the score differential after the first week. So let's take a look at these players' next matchup in week 2. GC.
Yeah, we've got some big games there. We've got some players who need to put some points on the board, but it's not necessarily going to be easy for them, because Radox, I think Radox is pretty good at Brazil, but he's, in week 2 he's coming up against Radu, who you could say Brazil is his specialty. So that's going to be a really, really interesting game. And then Seppo as well, who is looking to make up some points coming up against Yellow Skarmory. That could be quite an even one. And then Benika versus Mr. Blue GG. They're both currently in the top 3. So I think we can expect that one to be quite competitive as well. But yeah, I think after this week, this is where I think the table will start to take a bit of shape and we might be able to read into it a bit. I think after just week 1, that there's an element of randomness there. But I think after Brazil, we'll really see who's performing well and who's maybe struggling a bit more.
Yeah, Calamity, do you agree?
Yeah, pretty much. There's 2 things I'd like to mention about some very close matches that are coming up here. As GC already mentioned, Yellow Skarmory versus Seppo can be very close because they finished only, 76 points apart in the North Macedonian leg. And Teskotak and Ice Taro actually also only finished 99 points apart in their North Macedonian game. Funnily enough, in both instances, the person who got the better score lost their game and the person with the worst score won their game. So yeah, the Seppo and Ice Taro are hoping probably to rectify that in week 2.
Nice. And I do know that It's RC and Radox have a little bit of a history. They've played in many different leagues together. And I actually casted a match of theirs from a different league last week. So where Radu did come out on tops over Radox. So we'll see if Radox maybe can get some revenge in the Reddit League next week. With that, let's take a look at Division 3, the results from them last time. Calamity.
Well, obviously the most important thing is I won. But yeah, there's been decent performances all around. If you look at the scores, you'll notice that most of them are either close to 25k, close to 20k, or close to 15k. So it seems that most people did pretty well in pinpointing, but just missed out on either 1 or 2 locations. Funny here is that all of the 4 newcomers to the Reddit League won their game, and all of the people who got promoted to Division 3 lost their game. So wins for iJubak, one of the newcomers, wins for M the Bassman, Guelo Wizard, and who was the other one? Hualvar. Those were the 4 newcomers. And yeah, especially unfortunate for the people who got relegated from Division 2 because, I mean, you can't blame Freckles. He played against another person who got relegated in Wolf Tracker. But yeah, not too good for them, their start to the division.
Great. Yeah, GC, anything stand out to you?
Yeah, I think Calamity's point about the scores almost being in multiples of 5,000, that's really interesting. I think clearly there was something in this seed where maybe if you went the wrong way at the start, you were going to have no chance of finding it and therefore drop about 5,000 points. But yeah, no, as you said, it looks like people either got 3 or 4 or 5 locations pretty well, and then the others they kind of massively struggled on. But yeah, Wolf Tracker there with a huge score against Freckles, who's a very experienced player. That's the one that kind of jumps out to me the most.
Yeah, indeed. If it wasn't for Glaywell Wizard and Reddit playing each other, this would pretty much be the America versus the world week. But those two Americans do play against each other. This division is pretty stacked with American representation. So let's see how that all played out in the league table. Calamity.
Yeah, as usual with these league tables after week 1, there's not a whole lot to say about it. As you can see there, as I've mentioned a bit during the results screen, the 3 people at the bottom here, MD Spaceman, Wakoloch, and Theos, were the 3 people who got promoted into this division last season. So yeah, they're going to have some work cut out for them if they want to not get straight back down to Division 4.
Nice. Yeah, and again, you can see that kind of break-even point between 6th and 7th place, only 551 points separating M, the Bassman, and Pork Steaks in their game. Pork Steaks and Dem Freckles, though, getting that bonus point from having the best score among the losers. And then with that, let us jump into the fixtures for next week. Calamity, what stands out to you here?
Two matches that I've noted as quite interesting. Of course, my match against Freckles. As GC said before, Freckles is a very experienced player, and it'll be interesting to see what he can bring to the table in Brazil. And I hope I can keep up with him and maybe get another win. And as well as that, we've got Wolf Tracker's match against Ijubak. Wolf Tracker, again, as GC said before, best score in Division 3 in Week 1. And Ijubak, the current leader of Division 3. So yeah, that's another one to look out for.
Very nice. GC, anything look interesting?
Yeah, to be honest, I have to just mirror what Calamity said there. Those two matches at the bottom look particularly interesting. A couple of players in this division who I'm not as familiar with. But yeah, I think if you can kind of tack on back-to-back wins in the first 2 weeks of this, you're in a really strong position. So I think, if you're somebody like Wolf Trekker who got a win, I think you could, if you look to kind of get 6 points off the first 2 weeks, I think that sets you up really nicely. So I think he'll be preparing quite hard for this one.
Yes, the league season is only about 6 weeks for Division 3 at least. So 2 wins to start is a very good start indeed, and those points are going to be probably a big deal come week 6 or 7 here for those playoffs.
It's huge, I think, and actually I think there's a psychological element, because sometimes when you're playing your seed in the league, it's actually quite nerve-wracking, and I think if you know that you've got points to make up, I think it can kind of affect your play style and you end up putting a bit too much pressure on yourself. But if you've got points on the board, I think if you go into it a bit more relaxed, I think that can actually help you quite a lot.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that one, because I noticed it myself last season where I had a really bad start to the division, and then I just kind of got more and more frustrated by putting good performances in but still losing, and I think that definitely affected me in some of the games as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a huge factor for sure.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, something I'm looking forward to or not looking forward to. This being my first season in the division, in the league. Speaking of which, let's take a look at my division, Division 4A, and the results from there. GC.
Yeah, very, very nice. You can see you picked up the win there, which is well deserved with a very nice score. And then a huge scoring matchup between Max, FI, and Neusel. Equally high standard between Patriots and Marbos there. So yeah, we've got quite a few members of the division putting in some really nice scores. And then Lenovo sucks against Nitnarok. Looks like they struggled a bit more, but Nitnarok still manages to pick up a huge points differential there, just because that 7,400 is kind of one of the lower scores we've seen.
Nice. Yeah. Calamity?
Yeah, Nitnarok just kind of got a lucky break there, having the second lowest score in the division and still coming away with a victory. So he's probably going to have to step it up a bit next week if he wants to get more points on the table. And yeah, we actually have some similar scenes here as we had in Division 1, with the top 2 players of the division facing up against each other. Just in this case, Neusel lost a few too many points on pinpointing, so he's not going to get the draw.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, but that's how it works out in the head-to-head games. And let's see what that means for the table in Division 4A. As you can see, NC, they're getting that top spot with that point differential over me, who miraculously came in second. But what's really interesting to point out about this table is that the difference between 4th and 5th is 19 points. That is the smallest difference of any of the leagues. So very, very competitive matchup between those two. Maybe a little bit unlucky to go up against each other in this week.
Yeah, I think really unlucky for Mabos there. I think 19 points in the North Macedonia map is it's random, basically. I think the way you drop points so quickly for being 100 meters off. I think 19 points is it's almost meaningless. But Patriots will feel very, very happy to have got that extra bonus point there.
Yeah, but it is worth noting that Marbos and Neusel do pick up that bonus point with that rule change, so they're not left with nothing in the bag. So let's see who we're all playing next week. So GC?
Well, you can tell me, how do you feel coming up against Max FI, who posted such a big score in week 1?
Oh man, when I was playing my seed, he was the leader, and it kept telling me like, "Oh, you're this far behind the leader," and I was like, "Who is this guy? And do I have to play him?" And then Calamity informed me, "Yes, you have to play him next week," and I was like, "Oh God." So I don't know. I think it'll be a good challenge for me to see exactly where I stack. This might be a deciding match come playoff season. Such an early game, but has very big significance, I think, for both me and for Max FI.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the more interesting matches for sure. I think Lenovo against Marbos here is interesting too. I think really kind of harsh for Lenovo to come up against such a good player. So yeah, I think they've got their work cut out, because Marbos, you can expect him to post up a pretty decent score again.
Yeah, I'm personally interested to see, because I'm expecting more from Nitnarok come week 2. As I said before, he got lucky to have a weak opponent in week 1, or an opponent who put up a weak score. And he's going to have to perform better since he came down from Division 3. So if he wants to get back up there, he's definitely going to need a win against Anan Z in week 2.
Okay, so let's take a look then at the very last Division 4B and how that played out. Calamity.
Yeah, we have once more the 2 best scorers of the division facing off against each other in Closed and Ed Boris. Again, similar as in Division 4B, the points differential a bit too big for a draw. So Ed got a bit unlucky there. But he's probably gonna have a good shot at fighting for promotion anyway in this division.
Nice. What's also interesting to point out is while Division 4A had the smallest point differential, Division 4B had the largest between Papagato and that one weird girl. 14,430 point difference. That is a huge score differential you have going into week 2. So let's see what that means for the table there. Papagato sitting at top with that massive score differential. Everything else pretty unsurprising. And Closed 24/7 and Ed Boris kind of shooting themselves in the foot, each other in the foot rather, by both putting up such great scores, but then having to go up against each other. Ed, though, does get that bonus point to give him a little bit of something to take away from that week. GC, anything that looks interesting to you here on the table after week 1?
Yeah, look, we've got some interesting things going on in that score differential there, but as I've kind of hinted at before, I think the North Macedonia map is maybe not one to read too much into. So I think, as you can see, that one weird girl had quite a rough time, but I think Macedonia can just be like that. I think if you don't find the clue, or you kind of fail to spot what you're looking for on the map in time, you can really, really suffer. So I think I'm going to keep an eye on this one in kind of future weeks, and I think everything could change up.
Very nice. Okay, let's see who these all will be playing next week in Brazil. Calamity.
Yeah, for me, Ed Boris versus Deep Thought is definitely the match to look out for. They finished, I think it was 2nd and 3rd in terms of their points in North Macedonia. And I know they're both very strong players. So, yeah, a tough draw for Ed Boris to face, probably his 2 strongest opponents in the league in the first 2 weeks. But maybe it's also going to give him an easier time in the weeks coming forward. You never know, it goes both ways. And yeah, I'll be interested to see how that goes for them.
Great. And GC, any thoughts?
I'm quite interested by HCAN versus that one weird girl. They're both currently at the bottom, and I truly believe that your kind of state of mind can make a huge impact on how you play Geoguessr. So I think the fact that they're both going to be kind of fairly desperate for points could make that one quite interesting.
Very nice. Well, that will wrap it up for the divisions. We hope we'll see you all here next week to take a look at how week 2 played out. But before we go, Calamity sat down with M the Bassman from Division 3 and interviewed him about his first week. So let's have a listen to that.
All right, hello. I've got M the Bassman with me for a quick interview to end off this video. So first off, you're a newcomer to the Reddit League. How did your preseason go?
Well, my preseason went pretty weirdly because for practice I did the preseason legs for the first season, but I did not realize that those legs were the same as the second preseason. So before I knew it, I already did 4 of the legs. So yeah.
That's unfortunate.
And they were meant for practicing. So the scores maybe didn't turn out as well as I wanted. Especially the 4th leg didn't go well. I had like 18K, so I was practicing a lot for the 5th leg to get my score back up a bit. But yeah, I think generally I did well. Apart from the 4th round, I have over 22K for each round.
So do you think if you had, played the legs very seriously and were aware that they would be used for that, do you think you could have maybe gotten into Division 2?
Yeah, perhaps, but that's maybe a bit hard to say because I remember, for example, that 4th leg having Indonesia, which is one of the worst countries in Geoguessr for me. So, it might have not changed a lot, maybe a few things. Maybe I could have gotten 1,000, 2,000 more, but I don't think that will make the difference in the end.
All right. So as we now know, you've won your leg in week 1, so congratulations for that.
Thank you.
How did practice go for the North Macedonian leg? Did you try any specific things to memorize? Maybe try and see if you can memorize some locations or stuff during practice? And did any of that help you out in the actual match?
Well, the thing is, the Balkans are actually one of my best areas in Geoguessr. They're really fun to play for me, especially Serbia and Slovenia, but I've also done quite a bit of Macedonia, had some previous knowledge on, what places there are, how the landscapes look a little bit, if it's more towards Greece or Albania or Serbia. So yeah, that already gave me the edge a little bit. In practice, I more so, try to practice more decision-making skills, such as which way do I go? When do I get into the map? Would it be too soon? Would it be too late? That kind of stuff was more so the practice fun for me.
Any particular reasons why you've taken that liking to the Balkan countries?
I don't know, honestly. I think in terms of landscape, I think it's a very beautiful area in Europe. Very lush mountains, interesting language. I've been to Slovenia as well 1 summer ago, so maybe that's where it started a little bit.
Okay, nice. You mentioned in our survey that you take the league very seriously. Were you nervous during your game, or did you manage to keep calm?
Yeah, well, I definitely had some nerves, but I think that also had to do with the fact that it was my first ever competitive game ever in Geoguessr. And I always get like first time jitters for this kind of stuff. So during the leg, I still managed to keep calm. Like I didn't panic like, oh shit, where do I put the marker? I just, try to analyze a bit. Okay, where could this be? Think which way would go to which city, that kind of stuff. I managed to keep quite calm. I think in a few weeks I won't be as nervous because I'll be used to playing like this every week. So yeah, it went okay in that aspect.
All right, good. But you say that I'm still getting nervous every week anyway.
Yeah, maybe for me too, but I think in like the 5th round it will be not as bad.
You also said that you study linguistics. Do you think that gives you an edge over other players on certain maps?
Yeah, maybe it would. Like in linguistics, we study a lot of stuff, but the only overlap that I could have with linguistics is etymologically, like with the roots of words. That especially counts for countries with a Romance language, like whole South America, Mexico, Spain, Italy, especially France. Like if you pay a bit of attention to some words, they're quite similar to English or Latin. And if you study linguistics, you get a little bit of knowledge to Latin as well. Not too much, but a little bit. So maybe in some instances, like in France or Spain, I might recognize certain words a bit better. But I'm not sure if that would really give me the edge, because those are words a lot of people can figure out as well. I also know Cyrillic. I studied Russian for 1 week, so I got taught the script. So if you know the script, then you will have an advantage in those countries as well. But I think a lot of players already have that, so I don't think it gives me a huge advantage. But in some instances, maybe.
Yeah, maybe just being a bit quicker on some of the words and some of the Cyrillic as well.
Yeah, like recognizing them a bit quicker. Yeah.
So going back to the season itself, what are your goals for it?
I don't really have a specific goal, because I'm not sure how good the players are in my division. But I do have the ambitions to maybe challenge the top 4, the promotion spots. But I'm not entirely sure if that would be realistic. But I'm at least going to try. But if I end up in like 8th place, that'll be fine too.
All right. So looking forward a bit into the next week, what do you think of your chances going up against Theos in Brazil?
Well, I don't know a lot about Theos. All I've seen that is he's promoted from the 4th division and he's South African. So maybe he's used to, he knows how to win games, because, well, you have to do that to promote in the first place. So maybe he can deal with the pressure a bit better. And I guess maybe in terms of latitude, South Africa like has a similar latitude to southern Brazil, so maybe he could recognize the landscape a bit more. Taking into account Brazil is one of my worst countries in Geoguessr, it could go either way, honestly.
All right. Any last comments?
Well, first of all, very nice what you guys are doing here with the whole interviewing and predicting and analyzation. I think it makes the league a bit more interesting. And yeah, I'm happy to be taking part of this.
All right. Thank you for doing this interview with me. And
No problem.
And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.